Can I tell y'all what's on my mind? Life hard, but I go harder. Can I get a couple of things off my chest? Life hard, but I go harder. Hey, don't crash out. Wise up. It's your brother, your cousin, your uncle, your nephew, your friend, but I can't be your son, it's your kinfolk, William Jewell. And listen to my detail as I'm articulating. This is articulating. Rap. How y'all doing? Thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in, and just thank you for watching the show. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and get more content as it continues to follow. But it's a lot of things that's happening in rap this year, and I'm greatly appreciative and highly favored because I'm able to talk about it, I'm able to discuss it, and I'm able to give y'all my opinion, my perspective. Sometimes it's off the wall, sometimes it's inside the box, but I know you won't know what to expect, and that's the benefit of being a outside thinker or an independent thinker. And I just want to give y'all that message. Don't group think. And whatever I say, you don't have to go by whatever I say, because if you want to disagree, I'm okay with that, But let's talk about the music. Let's talk about rap. Let's talk about the Sexxy Red new album, right? And they saying it's a mixtape, right? But I consider those mixtape albums, right? Sometimes people don't want to put the album title on it because they feel like they're not putting in the work, they're not putting in the effort, they're not really being detail oriented when it comes to making this production. So when they put out a record, they just want you to know, hey, we just trying to throw some songs out and keep the pub going and keep that recognition going, right? And Sexxy's brand is well and alive. Right, it's very vibrant. It's catching on to the young girls. That's why I get so much heat from the older women when I give Sexxy Red her flowers, because they know that this music is trickling down to the younger generation, the younger girls, the daughters, the little sisters, right? And Sexxy Red pretty much has a chokehold on them. And I believe this album, In Sexxy We Trust, was right on brand, right? Because she had Take Heat. Take Heat has been delivering this production for her, and it's elevated her sound. She got Get It Sexy on this song, on this album. She got the song with Drake on this album. And she got some couple of songs on her that's on brand that you can play, right? Especially on the TikTok. I looked at it. It's only 33 minutes long. So it's not too long, but it's enough to keep the eyes and keep the people watching and keep the people following her movement. I see Sexxy Red out with other celebrities. She was out with a country star. She was out with Lana Del Rey. She's out with different types of people. So she's trying to expand her audience. She's trying to expand her brand across the culture, not just in the black community, right? And Sexxy Red, I just feel like she represents one of those women or one of those girls that I grew up with, right? You could say ghetto, you could say ratchet, you could say hood, but a woman that's in touch with the culture, right? The hair braiding, the micros, the crocheteds, right? The twist. A woman that's in touch with the culture, right? The J's, the Air Force Ones, right? The jersey dresses, right? The all whites. Just like they know how to dress. They know what to wear. The tattoos on the thigh, right? The lip ring, the nose piercing, right? The hair dye, the tracks, the weave. Like a woman that's in touch with herself, in touch with what's going on in her environment. And at the end of the day, how can we be mad when somebody is speaking on what's going on in their environment or telling the stories about how they were raised and how they approached different situations? She said, if you got more than 3 baby daddies, we know that coochie fire, right? Because you keep getting pregnant. So it's those things that are, some people say, damning to the culture, but at the end of the day, it is a reality. So although they say that she's a plant, they say that Lucian Grange's son found her and made her who she is, but Sexxy Red had to start from the bottom. She was in St. Louis. She was with Sukiana. She was in the video when NLE Chopper was walking them like a dog. That's the first time I saw Sexy Red. Then they had the up close pictures of her face, and you could see the pores on her face. Her skin didn't look right. And then let's fast forward another year. We see the transformation. She's had a baby. The skin is looking vibrant. The skin is looking shiny. She's glowing, right? Her body's even looking more developed. She's eating healthier. She's taking care of herself. And that's the thing that we're not giving credence. That's the thing that we're not giving credit to. Sexy Red is evolving right before our eyes. Not only is she taking on these other industry superstars, not only is she making friends, right, or even just collaborating with them, but she's still being herself, and she's being authentic to who she came in the game as. She's not changing, but her looks are changing. She's looking better. She looking like she got some money. And I believe a woman and a man that gets their money up, they are able to change their appearance. They're able to change how they dress. They're able to take better care of themselves. And I feel like she's taking better care of herself. And it shows in what she's doing outside of the rap music. But like I said, she had Tay Keith. Tay Keith, fuck these niggas up. Right? So, I mean, we can appreciate his production style. We can appreciate the platform and the beats and the instruments that he's given her, because obviously he's elevated her sound, right? And I'll be honest, sometimes Sexy Red does rap off beat. Sometimes Sexy Red, her vocal tone is not, it's out of control. Like the high pitch, the low pitch, I feel like she hasn't really mastered her craft yet. And she has to be in the studio more. She has to do more songs for that to come. But whether she's doing it on purpose or just doing it because she's not knowledgeable enough right now, she's not wise enough or not experienced enough to really know how to attack these instrumentals and how to approach the music, then I could see why. But I feel like Sexy Red, she just speaking on what's going on in her environment. So this album, this mixtape was right on brand for her, right? It matches everything she says. It matches everything she does. It matches the lifestyle of Sexy Red. So, in all honesty, I don't think this is a bad album mixtape, but I don't think it's a great hip-hop record. I think it's right on brand for Sexy. I believe this is a product for Sexy Red to continue to push her movement. And her movement, like I said, it goes beyond music. It crosses the boundaries. And now it's starting to cross into different cultures. And the thing is, she is a stereotype. And when she's crossing over to these other cultures, we see the stereotype of a black woman in the hood in Sexy Red and how she's mingling with these other artists and these other entities and people. But at the same time, she still is a representation of what's true. Because if we lie and say that's a bad representation, like that represents, a good amount of women growing up in poverty. And we can't try to hide that from America, right? We can't try to cover up our scars, cover up our scabs, right? You know what I'm saying? We can clean our house, but if somebody's coming in quickly, we can't deep clean it. So it's some cobwebs, some of that dust is going to be shown, right? If you haven't been cleaning up the whole time, if you haven't been deep cleaning, if you just wait until somebody comes over to start cleaning, you're going to miss some things. Sometimes those vents are going to be a little bit dusty. Those ceiling fans won't be all the way wiped because, it's just some parts in our culture that we can't hide from and that we can't run from, and they're going to come to light. Although that might not be the most favorable depiction of us, we got to accept that because that's who we are sometimes. And it's in the poverty-stricken areas, but think about how many of us are in those areas. Our numbers, our percentage of us represents those areas. So I would just say think about that. But we also got to think about Drake. We also got to think about his alignment with Sexy Red. Joe Budden had once said that Drake may be in alignment with Gamma, right? Gamma is the record label that Sexy Red is attached to. She's also attached to Rebel. right? And so we see Drake making these appearances with her. We see Drake doing these songs with her. And we're questioning, why is this mega star, spending time with Sexy Red, right? We question that. And some of the content that they had previously before the rap feud, it was comedic, it was funny, it was cute, right? And I love the fact that Drake embraced this dark-skinned woman and put his arms around her, right? But at the same time, when I see you stand by Sexy Red, I believe you see two bad bitches. That was a line that was important, that has caused some fog, that has caused some smoke in the air between Drake's and Sexy Red's relationship. And it's also been said that Drake was only doing this for the benefit of him. And then if we think about it, he's being exposed to her audience. He's being kept up with the newer generation, because the newer fans, the younger audiences, are starting to like Sexy Red, starting to put on for Sexy Red. And when Drake attaches himself to Sexy Red, then those younger artists, they're still thinking about Drake. Drake still's relevant because he's still keeping touch with that youth, with that younger crowd. And we know the benefits of Sexy Red, and the benefits of Four Bats, and the benefits of doing music with younger artists can be for artists like Drake, can be for artists like J.Cole. All My Life, Dirk, 21 Savage, a lot, J.Cole, you know what I'm saying? It benefited Cole too. Kendrick, Baby King, Family Ties. We see the benefits of these things. So Drake is no different than those guys either. But, some people have caused that type of formula into question, right? Some people have caused that formula culture vulture. And Drake has been also getting a lot of backlash because of it. And you got to think about the verse that Kendrick Lamar did on Euphoria when he talked about Sexy Red and Drake, right? Then you got to think about the relationship between Drake and Sexy Red. You know how mysterious it is because it came out of the blue, right? And then we also got to think about this verse, this song that he did with Sexy Red on In Sexy We Trust. You My Everything. People are saying the song is trash. People are saying the song is not good. You are my everything. Like, it's a good beat, it's good production, but I do believe Sexy Red is kind of like off key, off beat as usual, as I kind of already said, right? And so Drake gets on this beat and he's rapping about having to take care of business in Toronto and he can't be with someone, right? He's rapping about the things that are going on in his personal life, and it's hard for him to fly out. And then he goes into the transition of the BBL Drizzy, right? He tried to flip the BBL Drizzy track. Then basically he's trying to say, call him BBL Drizzy because he's the one that pays for women to get their bodies done. He's the one that have sent these surgeons so much customers, they give him free work, right? So he tries to flip it. But then we got to think about it and put it in perspective. All right. People are saying that Drake is a culture vulture, right? Kendrick has already pointed the finger at Drake and Sexy Red's relationship looking odd. Then the rap feud ensues a little bit more. After the rap feud, Drake says, good times, summer vibes up next. Now it's May 23rd, 24th, I'd say. That was the Friday. Drake gets on the featured track with Sexy Red, right? Not only does he talk about the personal things that's going on in his life, he tries to make light of the BBL Drizzy, right? Which is all a mashup, which is all like a whole bunch of elements combined, some dark-hearted, some light-hearted, and I just feel like the chemistry, the synergy in making that track and making this verse, it's not there. Like when I listen to Drake, he seems lethargic. When we heard him on the Heart Part 6, he felt like he wasn't really into this anymore. He felt like the passion was taken out of him, right? And now, even more, it sounds like he's continuing to make a play, to make a marketing and advertisement ploy. Because you're trying to give us personal information, then you're trying to flip the BBL jersey, and you're doing this on a Sexxy Red mixtape, right? Sexxy Red is with Gamma, people who you've already been rumored to be in cahoots with. So not only did Drake try to use this Sexxy Red song as a layup, but I feel like he tried to use this song as a cover, right? I don't think he really wanted to attack the BBL Drizzy how he should have. And to be honest, I feel like this was a tactic that fell short. This was a strategy that pretty much upended him, because it didn't do him no favors. Because I feel like the verse was okay, but coming off that feud, we need fire verses. And if you're going to market Sexxy Red, if you're going to put her up into that light, bro, like, do it right. Don't do it trying to get your shit off. Don't do it trying to be sneaky. You know what I'm saying? But we knew if he did this, this was going to cause more people to go to the Sexxy Red's album. It was going to cause more people to listen, right? And this was going to help Sexxy Red get numbers. And who has a vested interest in Sexxy Red? Gamma, who's also rumored to be in cahoots with Gamma, Drake. So this is continuing to show that Drake is doing things from a marketing, from a business standpoint, and to hell with the music. Like, I think some of his fans may be pleased, but I don't think his core audience, his real stands, are really enjoying his methods. Because every time you talk about Drake, every time you mention Drake, oh, why you always mention Drake? Why you always talking about Drake? Every time something about Drake comes up, you have to say something. I believe his core audience is not enthused because they're soft-hearted, because they're too emotional. They still have a broken heart because he lost the rap feud, but Drake is still existent. Drake is still alive. He says be ready for the summer 2024, but it's already summer. And what are you doing, Drake? You're doing features with Sexxy Red, talking about stuff that happened at the embassy, trying to flip the BBL Drizzy. You're trying to do too much all at once, and it's not working, and we're not falling for the trap. Rap, bro. Put out some good music. Don't try to hide. Don't try to take cover. Don't try to mask yourself on a Sexxy Red feature. Show your face. If I'm going to take flight, it's going to be direct. You don't got to be on no subs, but fly high like an eagle, not like a vulture. Fly high. Kill your prey. Right? Don't try to pick on the roadkill. This is roadkill. And Sexxy Red is a casualty of this beef. So not only does Drake need to get away from Sexxy Red, because I feel like it's not good for his image at this point, I feel like Sexxy Red needs to get away from Drake. Because Drake is ultimately using her. Has it benefited Sexxy Red? Of course. But I think in the long run, when the well runs dry, she's going to be left standing with nothing to show for. And I'm thankful that Sexxy Red's doing her thing outside of the music, because I think this will help her have a longer career. But I just believe that relationship right there between Drake and Sexxy Red is just funny under the light. And I can't call it. I can't put my hands on it. Sexxy Red has alluded to them doing things intimately. And honestly, I wouldn't deny that has happened. I would definitely believe that has happened, because everybody says how Drake moves in the industry. I'm sure he knocked her off just to say I had Sexxy Red too. You know what I'm saying? And that's going to be a great story to tell. But right now, it's just that story is not interesting anymore. But let's talk about that Vince Staples Dark Times. Let's talk about that Vince Staples Dark Times, because I believe Vince is definitely an underrated musician. He's definitely an underrated hip hop artist, right? We saw what he did with Ramona Park. We saw what he did with the Vince Staples self-titled. We saw what he did with Big Fish, right? And people have been falling in love with his personality. People have been falling in love with the image that he presents on these interviews, but sometimes just kind of like unique. We think about Joey Badass. Sometimes when we think about these actors and rappers, when we think about these rappers turned actors, like we kind of forget what they are musically. And I think a part of Vince has been lost because of what we've seen him do with the Vince Staples show on Netflix, which is also a masterpiece, which he also rapped about on this project. This record, like, this is one of the most digestible records that you're going to hear this year. And I think about records like Gunna, One of One. I think about La Russell and Hit Boy, Rent Due. I think about 21 Savage, American Dream. I think about those type of albums that's very cohesive and very compatible and easy to listen to all the way through. This is a shorter album. It's 13 tracks, but pretty much 3 of them were skits. So I would say this is a 10-track EP, right? And he put a lot of meat on this bone. He put a lot of juice into this tenderloin right here, because this album is probably the best Vince Staples album I've actually heard, to be honest. I like the Vince Staples self-titled, but I feel like he did some risk taking. He went to a whole nother level, right? And another level, I mean, he kept it Wi-Fi, right? So that you could pay attention a little bit more to what he was saying. He didn't want to distract the listeners from the message he was trying to convey. And he told some immaculate stories. He talked about survivor's guilt. He talked about a friend being locked up and he wanted to talk to him, but he really just felt guilty about telling him how well he was doing because the friend was locked up. He talked about women lying on Justin. He talked about a woman telling her man, oh, this is just my little cousin, right? He told stories on the radio, like the radio don't play the shit that I used to love. He told a story about meeting a woman and a woman not liking rap because of how they disrespect women, and him not understanding why she felt so strongly about it until she left him, until she broke his heart. And that caused him to look into other genres of music, to go deep into that soul music, right? So that he could have an understanding of the love that those other artists had for women and the type of, pedestal that they would put love on back in the day. Right. And then we go to Nothing Even Matters, similar to, Lauryn Hill. So he really gave us a lot to be proud of, a lot to think about, and a lot to digest. But this was a message that the community needed. This is a message that he delivered for us, and he didn't have to do it because he gave us the Vince Staples show. He gave us some perspective when he was giving us that knowledge and that wisdom on that show. Now he comes back with the album Dark Times, right? And he's giving us more perspective, right? More outlook, more things to think about. And I was upset when he was saying nobody cares about the beef. Taylor Swift is trying to make sure that the creators get the money of all of our streams, and all of our streams. I'm worried about something else. I was upset because he was trying to downplay it like it wasn't happening. I get it. Like, he got bigger things in his life to worry about. He know how the industry games goes. I get it, Vince. But I feel like he knew when he was speaking in that moment, he was shitting on hip hop, right? He was shitting on one of the greatest battles that was going on in hip hop, and it felt like condescending. So when he was going to release this album, I was like, oh, I get it. It's a rollout, So I feel like he did kind of roll out his album based off his comments on the music industry. But he's also saying that these media outlets wanted to point out that he said that, and then point out the other beneficial things that he was saying during that whole live stream for the community of Long Beach. So I think the production is on point. It's like that lo-fi music, like where you can really just hear the sounds, but it puts you in that move. It puts you in that move of enlightenment and put you in that mood of self-reflection, self-awareness. It puts you in the mood in like a meditative state to where you can really like look at what's going on around you internally and look what's going on the outside of you externally. And I believe with his illustration on his lyrics, because he didn't get too deep, he didn't try to be lyrical miracle, but he gave you lyrics that were blessings, lyrics that you could be thankful for, that you could tell that he has lyricism, that he has something to say, and that he's very thoughtful and mindful with the choice of his words. So Dark Times, actually this was a light in the moment of hip hop. Actually this was a light bulb. This was something like an idea, right? Creating different ideas, different things of how to attack this journey that we call life. So Dark Times by Vince Staples, it gets the stamp of approval from me, right? It gets a stamp of approval from me. And albeit it's coming off this Sexxy Red Drake feature, it's coming off the Kendrick Lamar and Drake rap beef, albeit it's coming off the Rhapsody. But I kept listening to this, and I don't usually keep listening to albums. I might give it 2 or 3 spins so I can critique it, but when I keep going back to it, that's how I know it's a great album. That's how I know this is going to be one of those albums of 2024 that the industry and that the community cannot deny. This is a good album right here, right? So I'm going to just keep it music, right? I'm going to just keep it on hip hop. And I heard that J.Cole feature on that Cash Cobain. I heard that J.Cole feature, and I was not impressed. And he seems to be going into that might delete later bag. He seems to be trying to do songs like HYB that he did with Boz. It seems like he's trying to do Fever, like a Drake style, like rhythmic type of, melodic type of rapping. And I feel like it doesn't suit him well. I feel like he's tried it, 2 times with Fever, with HYB, and I feel like this grippy, right? I feel like that's a fail. You struck out. J. Cole don't do this no more. So same thing with Drake, and it's the same thing with Cole. Like, you got away from the rap beef, but now when it's time for you to rap, and now when it's still time for you to be in your element, you giving us features like grippy, right? No. That's not what your fans want to hear. That's not what your fans deserve, bro. Just because you on a beach taking pictures with the fans because you riding a bike in the city, right? That don't mean you cool, bro. Like, what we want to know is what you're doing musically to get better. What you're doing musically to elevate yourself and to elevate the people, your listeners, and your audience, right? We need something that's going to put us on a conscious height. Not something that sounds like rhetorical, not something that sounds like these other rappers that's out here trying to do the melodic thing. And I get it, you're trying, you're taking the risk. I can't be mad at you for that, but strike 1 with HYB, strike 2 with Fever, and strike 3 with Grippy. Now it's getting slippery. Don't slip and fall. Because the fall back, the fall off, that's what we want. All right, so the J. Cole feature run, it's come to an end. He gave us Grippy, right? It's come to an end. And I think Red Leather, the song that he did with Future, he didn't kill Future on that song. I don't even think we needed J. Cole's verse. And he tried to do a little bit of the melodic stuff right there, and it's just not working for him. But he has a melodic Kill Edward version. He has a melodic version that works for him when he's doing more of that boom bap style type music. But it's just a certain frequency that I don't like J. Cole with, and I think it does a disservice to his talent and what he can do. So the thing about Cole is he's a great rapper, but he's not the artist of Drake. His melodic version, he can't get on those type of songs and be successful. He's not the Kendrick where he can, change his voice, animate himself, and be able to camouflage himself with these different type of beats and production. He's a rapper. So his best attribute is to rap, to be purely hip hop. And sometimes when he gets out of that, he gets outside of his body, he gets outside of himself. And that's just how I feel about Cole. So we forgetting about Cole. We swept his bullshit under the rug, but now it's time to pull that shit back too. Cause he definitely got some skeletons in his closet too. And I'm sure he didn't want that to be talked about, and that's why he exited the battle. We gotta talk about Cole too. Cause he ran with his tail tucked between the legs, saying Schoolboy Q gave him a heads up. No, I don't give a fuck about no heads up. Nigga, I'm going heads on. Like, you ran, bro. Because you missed a big moment. Right? Yes, it could have tore you down, but it could have built you back up. Sometimes when you destroy, it's to construct you to a better monument, construct you to a better place. And you missed the opportunity to become a statue, right? To become a skyscraper. You missed the opportunity to be cemented in history as one of the greatest rappers alive. And that's all you were talking about. And you missed it because of some peace. There's not always going to be peace. When you're searching for peace all the time, you miss the opportunity to grow. When you're searching for silence all the time, you're missing the opportunity to hear some things, to see some things that life needs to show you. And I believe he missed that opportunity in 2024 during this rap beef because he decided to backpedal. Give a fuck about y'all Cole stands. Cole fans, I love Cole too. But don't say he did himself a favor. Don't say Cole was the only one that really won in this rap beef. Do not say that. Because he lost. Yes, he kept his integrity. But if we think about the things that we did as kids, we wasn't always full of integrity. When we think about the things that we had to learn from, we had to learn through integrity, through falling off. And I just feel like Cole missed his opportunity.